Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Keys to Real Estate. I'm your host, Mary Schuster. Well, here at October Research, we are gearing up and are so excited for our Women's Leadership Summit, November 3rd and 4th in Cleveland, Ohio. This is a clarifying and energizing conference where we formulate strategic plans for success in both our professional and personal lives. And like any strategic plan, taking the time to be intentional about where you want to go and honest about where you're starting from are key to successfully achieving your goals. And sometimes that work needs the help of a coach. So we brought one in today to talk about how even the best and most high-performing professionals sometimes need someone in their corner to help them think differently or act differently, maybe choose differently, or plan out their next steps more intentionally. And we didn't just bring in any executive coach, but rather we went to one with a long history of working inside the real estate sector, specifically in the title and settlement industry. Alison Gareffa, certified executive coach, is here today to introduce you to what coaching is and what it isn't. She looks at how it works and how busy professionals benefit from engaging with an executive coach. So Allison understands the pressures of the work you do and the unique challenges being in the real estate industry can bring. So if you're curious to know whether engaging a professional coach might be something you or your career can benefit from, please enjoy this conversation that helps clarify how engaging with a coach just might be the catalyst your career needs right now. The presenting sponsor of the Keys to Real Estate podcast is RamQuest. RamQuest fosters a customer-first culture built around an unwavering commitment to provide solutions that don't just meet, but exceed expectations. RamQuest's newest title and settlement production solution, Horizon, delivers unparalleled efficiency, robust features, and scalability to ensure you have tools to boost productivity and elevate performance like never before. Horizon streamlines your operation with secure 24/7 access, automatic updates, and all the power that only the cloud can offer. Plus, Horizon offers a direct connection to the industry's most extensive network of service providers and partners. Experience Horizon for yourself when you visit ramquest.com. And now, please enjoy the show. Alison Gareffa, welcome to Keys to Real Estate. So happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be with you today.
Well, we needed to call in a coach. We've had a lot of folks sending some inquiries or just asking when we see them out at shows and things, and I'll get to some of those specific questions, but I thought of you to call on because you had you had a full and robust first career in the world of title and settlement. And then you had decided on a second career, A, to have one, and B, you chose executive coaching as yours. So most people don't see an immediate connection from the world of title and settlement and the real estate sector larger to executive coaching. I'm wondering, how did you decide this as a second career? What was compelling about the work?
Yeah, thank you, Mary, for having me today. I want to thank you and October Research. I think it's wonderful that you do this for your listeners, readers, all the above. And to get to your question, I think it was in the background when I was in the real estate title insurance industry. It was just something I knew that I wanted to do, but life was too busy with full-time work and juggling all of the other things in life. So I decided to take a planned one-year career pause. I left the industry, wanted to think about what I wanted to do next with the hunch that it would most likely be executive coaching. But I whiteboarded it and kind of kept coming back to it. So I came up with a plan, continued with my pause for a little longer because not everything was sort of lined up just yet. So now I'm back. I'm off and running. I'm a certified coach and focusing on two areas I'm really passionate about: the title insurance industry, and for those who know me, military spouses. And I also want to give a shout out to you and to Erica and the Women's Leadership Summit that October Research posts every November. You really were saying, you've got to come, you can't miss it. And you were so right. I attended last year. It was, I mean, I'm not kidding. It was like life changing. I came out of that a completely different person. And it wasn't one of those conferences or things that you do that when you get back home, it kind of all goes away. It really stuck. So I want to thank you guys for that. And also, I know you have one coming up again this November. Just a plug for it for women because it's a wonderful, wonderful event.
Oh, thank you. And I'm so glad to hear that it was a facilitator, a Kickstarter, or a what for you that helped you get next level, and that you didn't experience that thing where you go to a conference, you get 1,000 good ideas, and then you go back and they fall away, and maybe you think of one 6 months later, and you went, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm so glad that it was much more impactful for you. It sounds like that's great.
Yeah, it really was. So I owe that to October Research and you in particular.
Well, that's wonderful. Okay, so why executive coaching? What was interesting? What problem did you see out there that you thought you could help solve by being a coach?
Yeah, I think for me, I had four decades, almost 40 years, maybe not consecutively in the title insurance industry, and then as a military spouse over 3 decades. And that really gave me a love for people and listening to people, helping them find what it is that they want to do, what goals they have, even some mentoring that I did during that time in both of those areas. And it really just lights me up to think about people taking time for themselves and saying, hey, you're worth, it's an hour or 45 minutes or whatever it is. And you are worth that. You owe that to yourself. And so I think that's really what was the driving force.
That makes sense. So we in the real estate sector, including title and settlement, but not exclusively, we kind of think we're unique. We kind of think we're a different breed. And so I'm wondering, the things that you're helping folks in the real estate sector with, is it similar to what executives and leaders and managers struggle with in other industries? Are we really unique? How does that compare?
Yes, and in so many ways, real estate title insurance, the industry is so niched and so nuanced. In the area of coaching in particular, it's not so much. Things like work-life balance, time management, self-awareness as a leader, emotional intelligence, burnout on the job, on the career, having difficult conversations with employees or with people you're working with, influential conversations as well. Those are two different things. These are sort of common themes throughout humanity, really. I mean, it's not even just professionals, interestingly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so now we're getting into some of these questions that I hear about, so that people ask about. So I have some specifics. Like, some people have said, well, I'm kind of confused about what coaching is and what isn't. How do I interact with it? Is it like therapy, like talking therapy? Is it more like physical therapy? Is it I'd love to clarify some of those questions and maybe address some of the myths that might be out there. And I think it tends to be more of just a big question mark. It sounds interesting, but I don't know how to engage with it. I don't know how to approach with it. Seems to be the bottom line of most of the questions I've heard about it.
That's true. I think a lot of people don't know what it is or how it works. And so that keeps them more at bay from it. It's definitely, it's very nuanced, right? Consulting is when you hire someone or a company to come in and look at it all and make their recommendations to you and say, you should do X, Y, and Z. Coaching isn't like that. I'll get to coaching last, I think. Therapy, really when it's more, I would say therapy is more in the personal realm, not the professional realm. And it's also backward looking. So you're going back, not just to like, hey, this happened in my childhood and this is why I'm like this, but I need to spend some time figuring that all out and staying in the past to do it. That makes it therapy. Whereas coaching is present day. And while we might look at the past and say, when did you first start to notice that or have that perception or whatever it might be. Then we bring it right back here to the present and keep looking forward with it. So that's how coaching differs. You don't sit on a couch or like therapy, you know, all that. You don't need tools. You don't need a lot. You don't really need anything to do coaching. So
Okay,
it's,
so it's more in the now and forward looking. I tend to think like if I think about how to apply it, I think it would probably be I'm here now and I want to get over here. What do I need to do? Or maybe I'm here now and I don't know where I want to go. And that's another question I've been asked too is like does a person in order to be effective in their coaching relationship with their coach, do I need to be working towards like a specific goal or project, or can I just have like a general feeling of stuck that we're going to work through? Like, what would be good things that would, issues that I might be having, questions that I might be having that would lend themselves well to the coaching process?
I guess I'd say yes to both.
Okay.
That you want to have a specific goal. Most people do. Most people come to coaching when they have something going on that is so painful or so challenging that they're like, I've got to try something else. And that
Okay.
initially leads them to coaching. The folks who do that oftentimes are like, oh my gosh, you could help me with X, Y, and Z. And so once they try it, they realize, oh, this could help in a number of areas. So yes, there's definitely a reason that they typically come to coaching. And then yes, it can help with goal setting or creating a plan to success or, whatever it might be, how to be a better leader. Interestingly, one thing I'll say, kind of going back to your last question, which I just thought of given my middle-aged brain, is that coaching really gives people the space to think through things. I heard someone say coaching is like climbing a tree in your own mind, and you're looking down on your life or the situation or a work issue from a different vantage point. So you're creating the time and the space to do it. You're working with someone who's going to help you get out of what we call default brain into, oh, I never thought of that question, or I never thought about it that way. And allowing you the time to find those answers and that path within yourself.
I tend to think about it like if I were going to make a list of things that I suspect coaching might help with, like I would have probably put down maybe more nebulous concepts like I procrastinate too much, or I need help with my time management, or I'm just stuck in a rut, or my thinking on this is messed up and I know it is, but I don't know how to change it. I don't know how to get out of that rut. So to say that, yeah, to hear you say, yes, that's what we usually eventually get into, but we usually start out with something a lot more concrete and specific. Like I have job A, I want to get to job B. What do I need to do? Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Yes, and that's exactly it. You've captured it. There are people that say, I got passed over for a promotion that I really wanted, and I want to find out what's next, or I want to find out what I have to do to get that, or I'm done here. I want to map out something else, a different career. They usually come with something like that to coaching.
That makes a lot of sense. All right. So then the last question I get frequently is even if for people who understand they have a situation and believe that someone could help coach them through that, they get concerned about, if the shorthand you hear is am I worth it or is it worth it? And I'm going to flip the question and ask it a little different way. Is it easy to spot the ROI? Because there is a financial aspect of it, probably not as insurmountable or large as people think, but is the ROI easy to spot, or is that a hard thing to prove to yourself?
Yeah, so another good one. I think for if you're in coaching, there's a specific reason you're doing it. That's discussed up front before a contract is drawn up, before anything is done. Then what you're doing is saying with your client, what does success look like to you? Once we know what that is, it's measurable. So contract, then we start the coaching journey together, and we're going to look at that probably on a monthly basis, that yardstick that our client has come up with. It's not our it's not my yardstick. It's the client's yardstick. And we're going to go back and make sure that we're staying on track to that Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. And it leads me to another question of, okay, let's say I decided, I think maybe based on listening to this conversation that a certified coach could be a good add to my life, but I don't know, how do we engage? How often can I expect you to want to meet with me? Do I need to do it during the workday or at night? Like what's most effective, or what's the most common things you see out there?
Yeah. My brain is about 10 seconds behind yours. So I'm already going, oh wait, I wanna
Oh,
touch on the ROI piece.
that's okay. That's okay. I'm sorry. I probably cut you off too soon. My
No,
apologies.
you didn't. No, you didn't. Went I went down a different path and then was like, I didn't really fully answer that. The ROI, if you're not seeing, we talk about it in terms of like, if I can't help you improve productivity, like if you're not 10 times more productive, if you're not able to be more profitable, if we're not able to help you achieve that, I want to be sitting with my family having dinner every night without still being at the office or thinking about that. The ROI is really important, because otherwise, obviously, people are going to say, well, that was a nice hour, but what did I get from that? So it's a good point.
Yeah. Okay. So how does it normally work? I'm assuming it's virtual like we are today. Should a person think about, I know it's going to be probably whatever works for them, but is kind of monthly? Is it bi-weekly? Is it weekly? What's usual and customary?
Yeah, I would say normally a 6 month duration as a minimum is ideal. 3 months, sometimes that's daunting for people. The problem with 3 months is it's not enough time always to unveil the issue, which is often shrouded as something else. So you come in and you're like, I need to talk about delegation or something and time management, or I've got to get this project done. And all of a sudden, it turns out it's like, because I really want this, I want to get this other promotion. And I don't know that this is going to get me there. I need to think through some other steps in this process. So there's that piece of it. I think 6 months is probably a good amount of time to really get to the heart of what the issue is, what success looks like, and then have some runway to move the needle, measure it, and see where we are. So I would say 6 months. For the first month, I suggest meeting once a week. You're in the rapport building stage. You want to make sure that you're sort of developing this rhythm. First session is, while it's good, often takes into the second or third to really kind of uncover things. Ultimately, it's all up to the client. There are some clients that say, I can't do that. I have to do every other week. I want to do every week for the entire 6 months. Really, it's you that would decide how the periodicity. I've got 45 minutes. I don't have an hour, 50 minutes, whatever that duration looks like. And then what I like to do for my clients, I call them, I don't know if spot check's the right word, but I want to be there for them as things crop up. So I've had clients call me and say, look, my whole world just got turned upside down. This just happened. Do you have time to talk about it? And that's all baked in. I like to do that for clients because that's how life is, right? I hope that answered it. Now, and the other piece would be if someone said, I have these assessments, I want to talk about those, or I want to do an assessment. If they say, I don't want to do one and I don't have any and I hate assessments, that's fine too. It's all client driven. It's what you want.
Okay, but you guys have some tools. Like if I show up and I go, I don't know what I need to work on. I just know that I haven't taken a big leap forward in a while and I want to take a big leap forward again. Then you have some tools to help me figure out what is an area I might want to focus on. That's great. I didn't know you guys had those tools.
Yeah, we're tricky that way, aren't we?
You are.
We do. Many of us have some of our own things that we use, and then we have these outside assessments or tools if the client wants to do that.
Support for today's episode is provided by October Research. October Research provides national coverage of case law, news, regulatory updates, and competitive business strategies critical for sustaining an innovative and compliant real estate business operation. Our portfolio publications offer independent and unbiased information that helps you Stay educated and informed on what matters most to your business. So visit octoberresearch.com to learn more about our portfolio of real estate publications, sign up for free email news, educational webinars, and premier industry events for thought leaders. Knowledge, the competitive advantage. All right, so a lot of us who work, again, in the real estate sector didn't get here by accident. We are not the most trusting of souls. Overall, we're not used to engaging with trusted advisors. Let me say it that way. We're used to being the trusted advisors. I think it's a feature, not a bug. But I would imagine that for some of us, that also means we're a little slower to hop into a trusted advisor relationship with someone else. If they were curious, if they were going to get ready for a first meeting with a prospective coach, understanding that they'd be interviewing a prospective coach as well as the coach is interviewing you as a prospective client, what would be something? We're homework people. We like to gather things. We like to be prepared for meetings. What are the kinds of things we should think about or collect and bring to a first meeting like that?
Yeah, and I'm with you there on the trust bus. That's a toughie. It's hard. And you don't want to waste time. You don't want to say, I don't want to go down this path and then realize this is like there's not good chemistry, or I don't know that this is gonna be a good fit. That's the great thing about that discovery call is, to your point, it's sort of like an interview process where each person gets a sense for the other. You can ask each other questions. You'll begin to see, is there that chemistry? And if there isn't, certified coaches will tell you, like, hey, that's okay. Like, you have to choose the coach that's right for you. I know the title insurance industry peeps also they like information. Forbes has a great article on tips. There's a lot out there too. If you Google tips for choosing the right coach, and I think word of mouth is great. Interestingly, there have been several people in the title insurance industry when I've said, "Oh, I'm getting certified. I'm an executive coach, or I got certified." They'll say, "Use a coach. I worked with a coach," or I know people that we know that I'm like, "Wow, I would have had no idea." Like, you don't wear a badge
True.
that says it. So I think word of mouth is great. It's interesting, if you ask around, you might be surprised that there are others out there who have done it or are doing it. And then look at their background. Some people care about credentials, certifications, referrals even. Coaches should be able to provide all of that. And then that discovery call is really important because it's going to tell you if you have that rapport. If it's not a good fit, you have to do what's best for you and keep searching, keep going on the journey to find someone.
Fair. All right, this is going to feel a little random of a question, and if it's too random, feel free to tell me that's too random. But when I was thinking about our talk today, I was thinking back to we had a 2-part episode with Lisa Walden, who is a consultant for companies, but she does a lot of generational work. She does a lot of management work. Her book is Building a Workplace That Doesn't Suck. So she's very into the people side of business as well. And she does a lot of translation into the earlier career workers for me. It's just a role she graciously fills because I have a lot of questions and I'm trying to keep up. One of the things that she mentioned was about having coaching mindset versus a bossing mindset, especially with earlier career workers. And at the time I nodded along and it was one of those, I've never thought about it that way. And it wouldn't kill me to have more of a coach mindset than a boss mindset. And then afterwards, and this is Lisa, if you're listening, I love you. I am not negating what you said, but I thought, okay, the one difference for me in that equation is as an employer or a manager or whatever, I pay an employee, but I typically pay the benefit of a coach that I need. And so that's a bit of a convoluted way of saying, I think it's just a different mindset. And if I am a boss or a manager and I'm trying to communicate differently with, I'll say younger, we can say younger here, employees that might respond better to that coaching construct than a traditional boss construct. I don't have any idea how to do that in the workplace. I know how to do that on the little league field or the volleyball or even, volunteering at JA, but I don't know how to do it in the workplace. And so I wondered, sorry, that was a long wind up too. I wonder if also, while like if I were engaged with you as a coach, might I learn or might you be able to teach me some of those skills that I could transfer to younger workers that I'm trying to help bring along, or at least I'm trying to engage with in a more effective way than some of my old ways might allow. I don't know if you have thoughts on that, but it did come up in my brain. I wanted to ask you.
I think coaching is about helping leaders hone their craft as leaders. And interestingly, being an effective leader, trying to get the most out of your people, isn't saying, do this, do that, and do it this way. It really starts with asking some open-ended questions. Help me understand what your career goals are. And by the way, this all ties to ROI because you're retaining your employees. If you do this right, they're going to be, so loyal to you and want to do their best for you. And they're going to not only accomplish what it was that you would have otherwise delegated and say, do this and do it this way and get it done by now or whenever, tomorrow. They're going to be swinging for the fences because they're going to be like, I want to perform for you. You really care about me. And that's a huge component of leadership. And it's genuine. You have to care about your people. You have to understand what makes them tick. What do they care about? Where do they want to get? Helping them succeed. Yes, occasionally you're going to have a role to fill because they're going to move on but they're going to be telling everyone about you and what an amazing boss you are and you should go work for them. And so I think that piece of it is really important. And it starts with, and this was hard for me when I first started my coaching training, because so many questions are closed-ended. You think you could get it done today? Okay, that's a yes, no. When do you think that you could get this done? How soon? Just framing it up that way, steering clear of yes and no. Could you do this for me? How could you fit this into all of the other things that you have on your plate? And that emotes, that caring piece comes through. And that really resonates with a lot of folks.
Yeah. That's true. And it's such an easy thing to do, but it's so hard to build it into an extremely busy chop day to day where efficiency is the name of the game in almost all things. And that's certainly true in even loan origination and loan processing for closing. We do tend to need to rely on the yes, no answers for the work. And I think you make a brilliant point there about, and if we're not careful, that language, I am guilty as charged as this, that language will creep over and that conversation habit will creep over into things that don't need to be yes, no, right now, chop. And it is not helpful to a relationship. I don't know if it's damaging or not, but it's not helpful.
Yeah, and to your point, there are times where that isn't possible, that it's like it's month end and we have these files that need to close. They have to get done. Like they got to ship out tonight or whatever. And there's also times after month end when things are a little calmer to have. So many leaders a lot of folks don't even do one-on-ones with the people that are on their team. And so you just never have that. You just don't feel like you have that rapport. The same thing you're looking for really in a coach, that chemistry, the trust has to be there. And then when the what hits the fan, you're just in lockstep. And it's just like, yeah, head down, got to get it done.
Yeah. Speaking of one-on-ones, I had to come along. I had to educate myself along on this topic because for me, I've gone this entire length of my career. Woe is me. Nobody wanted to meet with me or whatever. You certainly didn't call it a one-on-one. You certainly didn't want to. And so I had to learn, what are these about now? And how are they supposed to happen to be effective? And I think a lot of people know they're supposed to have them, but don't know how to make them effective. They treat it like an intense, where are you at on this? Where are you at on this? Like a check-in, as opposed to, what should a good one-on-one consist of? How should it flow? How should it go?
Yeah, that may be nuanced a little depending on industry. I think there's some a basic framework though that is universal. And it really starts with how are you doing? It also starts with do not disturb, door shut, intently listening, being ready to engage so that when you ask the question, you're not already, oh, hang on a minute, my phone just dinged.
Right.
That is really hugely important. And then asking them how they are. How are you doing? It's okay to take a few minutes of time and kind of check in with them. And then it's also okay to have some things on the agenda, like wanted to talk to you about this. What would you like to talk about today? What are, is there anything that person is going to then get used to being able to come in, like, just like the coaching, that discovery, it's going to be to get an interview. It's going to be like a give and take that way. And I think that in that actively listening, repeating back, even what I heard you say is that you're needing a little bit of help reprioritizing these files. Is that right? Did I get that right? That is a closed-ended question, I know. But sometimes it's okay to ask them. If they say yes, or sometimes they'll say, no, I can figure that out. There's too many of them. I can't possibly, so that actively listening and then sort of repeating back what you're hearing and asking for that confirmation or clarification is a biggie in the one-on-ones. And by the way, one-on-ones, interestingly, I don't know about you, but when I used to do them, it was across a desk, right? So I would be in the chair over here and my boss would be over there. And now one-on-ones have morphed. Oh my gosh. I don't know if it's COVID. I mean, sometimes they're on Zoom. So there's that. Sometimes it's a walk and talk. Let's get out of the building. If you're in the same building, let's take a loop, or just to kind of change it up. So it can take different forms too.
Yeah. And I grew to love them. And I started out not resentful, probably, but suspicious. I thought they had purpose, and I wasn't sure what that was, so I didn't know how to do them right. Instead of, oh, okay, this is just time. And I will tell you, the busier of a boss you are, the more time you have to, the more, let me say it this way, the more beneficial that one-on-one is, because at your good, engaged, more interactive employees are always going to be like, ha, and you're like, yeah, I know, and you're gone, you're running, or to your point, the door is not closed or the phone's still going, so you think you're talking, you think you're giving them time, and they just end up going basically, oh, never mind. And then you as a leader don't hear about, oh, this thing that they wouldn't put as the third bullet point on their discussion when you're distracted, when they're trying to, catch you running by. But if you have time to just sit and talk, it's going to probably come up, and it's something you need to know that you wouldn't otherwise get to. And I think just that whole tenor and demeanor, and not having it be a, where are you at on this task and this project, but hi, how are you, especially in a world where we're more often virtual now than not. I will have to say I became a fan of them, and it sounds like you.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, as usual. And I started out doing one-on-ones back in the day because, in 1997, when I came back into the title insurance industry, I was remote, which was unheard of.
Right.
I worked from home. I had, at the time, I was actually part-time, had young kids. I had people who reported to me in a different location. And so we would get on the phone because I was like, how are they going to know what I'm working on? Or how are we going to sync up? So those one-on-ones just felt really natural to do it for that reason. And I agree with you. Over time, it's like, what do they want to meet with me about? Is this just going to be like a one way? And they've really morphed today. And so it's that give and take and that back and forth and the, like I said, the trusted relationships, and you use the word, sometimes leaders are too busy. They don't have time. And yet you'll be in a one-on-one and the person will be like, how can I help you with that? All of a sudden, both ways. I've seen it go. I've seen a leader sit at their desk and do whatever they needed to do to help them get out because they had to get to their child's birthday party or a track event. And man, you can't put a price tag on it. Goes back to the ROI. And now you've got a loyal employee who you spent a lot of money training and building up years of experience and just requisite knowledge that if they left, you almost can't put a figure on that. And so it's huge.
Yeah. Well, and it's harder, I think, to build and or sustain really high functioning teams in this hybrid world that we all love. And I mean, most of us really love it, but we have to overcompensate in some of these other areas to keep from it not being a net negative of what you miss out by not brushing each other's shoulders in the workplace anymore. And I think those one-on-ones done correctly can go a long way towards that.
Agree.
All right. Well, for people out there who have listened and said, "All right, this sounds like more than better than talk therapy," uh, and who are starting to think, they're a little curious about the coaching. What's one thing that you would like to leave in their minds to think about, whether it be like something that you were surprised to see coaching in a coaching experience bring to light, or just something that you'd like to leave with folks as they put this in their list of maybes they want to do at some point, or maybe they want to have an employee that they want to have coached or something. What just give people a little tidbit before they leave.
For me, I hired a coach to come to that decision of, I think I need to press pause for a little while and allow myself the quiet and the space to think about what I want to do next. I remembered when I didn't hire the coach thinking, how do I know I want to press pause. It was just like, I don't know. I just had a sense of, is this my purpose? Maybe it's like a midlife crisis. Is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? And so for me, it started like that. And the questions that I was asked along the way, I was like, I remember saying, oh gosh, that's a really good question. That's really good. I hadn't thought of that. And so I think that the biggest thing I can say about coaching is it gets you out of your default brain. It allows you to see things from a different perspective. We're all in this, we're wired as humans to be in this survival mode. And we certainly see that in the title insurance industry. And I think that survival mode, sure, it looks different than like the caveman and going out and hunting for stuff, for sure. But that survival mode, your brain is still rationalizing. Your brain is still creating a story to sort of explain where you are right now, or what you're doing, or why you're not doing something. And so coaching can really help you get outside of yourself, create that thought space or thinking space, and then help you connect with what is it that you want. That translates into identifying what your goals are and then mapping to your goals. And that could be personal, it could be professional. And I think many people don't realize it's just one of those things. I think if you give it a try, you'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm just so much, you get where you want to go faster, connect with what it is you really want. And I know I'm being a little bit long-winded and meandery here. There's so many benefits from coaching. And I think that it can really help people find their way. A lot of times too busy to do it, too busy to set aside that, not that they can't, but they don't set aside the time. And all of us in the title industry were like, oh, but it's not about us. It's about other people and serving other people. And sometimes we need to take that time for ourselves.
Well, if nothing else, I think the whole idea of having an hour a week or an hour every other week or whatever you can manage to not only have somebody else show up and sort of be your partner in what do you want and how do you want to get there, but then also to have that set time that you go, no matter how crazy Thursday gets or Friday gets or Saturday gets, and I haven't moved my needle on getting my goals, I know by the next time I meet with you on Wednesday, I'm going to have 3 things done. Like just baking that. I'm a little exhausted of the phrase baked in accountability right now, but it's baked in accountability, and it's not up to, you as the individual. I mean, given that you're just going to keep hitting the snooze button, you're just, okay, well, today it didn't work out tomorrow. Well, if in 3 days I've got a meeting with a coach, I'm going to be less likely to hit the snooze button on it. So I don't want that to sound like you're a taskmaster, but part of it is somebody else is showing up and meeting you to work on some aspect of your world. And that's kind of a big deal. We don't get that very often.
Agreed. And for me, when I meet with my clients, the first question is, what's at the forefront? What's top of mind today? What do you want to talk about? If we left off with, we're going to pick up and plot a course to achieve these goals, but you have a fire drill right now, you have something going on with a boss or a team member, whatever, we're going to talk about what it is that you want to talk about. And that's really empowering to people. And to your point, I mean, there was never, as busy as I was weaving and coaching, I used to do it early in the morning before my workday started, because I felt like, or lunch hour sometimes too, I got gleeful. I was like, oh my gosh, I have this time. I'm just so looking forward to it. And it was because such a rare thing to sort of take that time for yourself.
It is. Well, I really thank you for helping us demystify some of this again, because as I mentioned, there are people who are like, well, yeah, I think so, but I don't know. Like, they're just a little, they're like, is it woo woo? Is it, do I have to lay down on a couch? Is it, how does that make you feel? Or if I'm going to, a person asked me this last week directly. Okay, I heard Miss Walden say, you need to take more of a coach approach with some of your employees instead of maybe a boss mindset. And they're like, I just don't know about how to go about that. Am I supposed to ask them how they feel about doing their work? It's like, no. That's a therapist. This is different, but I don't have the experience to know how it is different. So we needed an expert. Thanks for answering the bell when we called. I can see the joy that it and the difference it has made in your eyes when you talk about it, in your smile, and how you even hold your shoulders when you talk about your work. I can tell you're making a difference for people. So the degree to which you've brought folks some information that might help change their work or profession or personal life a little bit today, we're grateful. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure to be with you.
Thanks, Allison, for the insights. I think I'm starting to get the picture. Audience, Allison sent over some coaching FAQs. And so if you're thinking a coach might be for you, producer Bob has linked that list in today's show notes for you to check out. And Allison's email address and website are also linked there if you have more questions about coaching or how it might benefit you. So for those of you who want to know more about our Women's Leadership Summit for yourself or a colleague or some of your female staff, we'll also include a link to more information in the show notes for that too. I loved hearing how WLS sparked a life change for Allison, and I'll admit it did for me too. We'd love to see you there. And until next time, keep challenging yourself and others in how to do new things in even better ways. And we'll keep bringing the information you need to thrive while you continue to hold your keys to real estate. And so until next time, I'm Mary Schuster for October Research, where knowledge is the competitive advantage.